Hey guys, so after my last video, I actually got a little curious, like how many nines do I have, how many 5 stars do I have, and which books are they? Because it's not necessarily reflected in the scoreboard for my blog, because I've never done this solo. So it's always been my score as the average with other scores. So I went through and I pulled all of my reviews, and I have a list of 10 here. So I only have 5 nines over the course of all these years, over 50 or 60 finalists it's been at this point. I only have 5 nines, and 3 of them came in this year, which is why I was just like, what the fuck is this year? So, and I have an 8.5 that also made it onto the list this year. So this year makes almost half my list of my most favorite finalists over the last like 5 years I've been doing this. So I just wanted to give a little highlight to my favorite books. I'll give a little description about them, links and stuff in the written portion. So if you're watching this, you can just go to my blog and like get all the information for all this, links to my past reviews and all that jazz. But here is the list. So going from top or bottom to top, with my lowest score being an 8.5, it's the 13th Hour by Trudy Skies from this year. This has had incredible world building. I loved the voice in this book. Like, it was a very clear style to it, and I really enjoyed it. Obviously, 8.5 for me is 5 stars. So all of these are 5-star books. A Blackstone Heart by Michael Fletcher. So sometimes Michael Fletcher works for me, and then sometimes it doesn't because it's just so dark. It's nothing to do with the writing style. It has everything to do with, is this too much for Esme? And sometimes yes, and sometimes no. So A Blackstone Heart I really, really enjoyed. Just, it's a great written book, and then it's also to my taste. So A Tale of Stars and Shadow by Lisa Cassidy. She was a finalist at the same time that Sorta Kagan was a finalist, and that book just sort of absorbed an unbelievable amount of energy from the audience, and I feel like some of the other finalists didn't get to shine as much as maybe they could have. And A Tale of Stars and Shadows is definitely that. I think it came in 4th that year, so there was a battle of 3 books to go to the top if you weren't watching that year, and she was 4th. And so I feel like that's why this title isn't as bantered about as it should be. It's a great book. The Aching God by Michael Schell. This is one of the few books where I've gone through and I've read the whole series. So I don't usually carry on to book 2, even if I really enjoyed myself. I don't know what it is. Like, I'm usually completely fine with just leaving it as book 1. I know the characters, I know the world. And if I ever get to it, I can go back, but I usually don't. I have finished The Aching God. It is an amazing series. I really recommend it. It's got a great audiobook. So coming in, it's halfway through, Sorta Kagan at an 8.7. So I ding this one for pacing. It is such a slow start. I almost DNF'd, and that's why it's not a 9. It's because the first like 30 to 40%, I was like, oh my god, when does this get started? And then once it started, it's like being launched. I was like, oh my god, and I just read through to the end like a mad woman, like, give me more of this. So it was one of those like 180 turnarounds, and I can't even put my finger on what it was precisely, but I just got so involved about 30 to 40% through, and I was just so emotionally invested. I don't cry during books, and I didn't here, but it almost made me do that, and that just doesn't happen. It got me very emotional, and that just doesn't happen all that often. It's definitely memorable. So, Shadow of a Dead God by Patrick Samphire. So I just like this tone. I'm a humor person, and although I wouldn't call this a comedy, it definitely has, I don't even know how to describe it, like a sarcastic, a witty, just a bantery tone to it that just, I really loved it. And it's a murder mystery. It's set in the second world high fantasy, and, you know, there are bee gods and flowers, and it was just unique, and I always love something different because I read so much. The Lost War by Justin Lee Anderson. The ending to this book. So it's totally worth it. It is fantastically written. I thought I was going to give it like an 8, maybe an 8.5, and then the ending just blew me away, and I was like, fuck it, it's a 9. So this is the beginning of my 9s. No, just kidding. Shadow of a Dead God was a 9. So The Lost War by Justin Lee Anderson was a 9. I think it's been picked up by Orbit. I think I saw that in the mailer. God, I hope I'm right, because I can't edit. Double check me on that. Miss Percy's Pocket Guide to Feeding of British Dragons. Good lord, that title. So The 9 that I have here is not reflected on the board. I had a guest judge. We share discords. We've been on private channels. You know, I thought the optics of me giving a 9 to a friend would look bad. So I had Kitty do it. She gave it a 7. That's, you know, that's fine. That's why she was there. Chris and I both gave it a 9. And it's one of my favorites. It's just so charming. This is another one where the voice and the tone and the writing was just so on point. I was just completely taken in from beginning to end. It's well paced. The characters are great. I wish it all the best because at this point, the filming of this, you know, SPFBO is not done yet. We're in February. A Song for the Void. Holy shit, did this book come out of fucking nowhere? I hadn't heard of this author. I hadn't heard of the book before the contest. I was watching as the semi-finalists were coming in, and I caught the description of it being a historical cosmic horror fantasy, and I was like, what the fuck is that? Please win so I can the finalist spot so I can read you, have time to read you, and I did. It was fucking fantastic. And then the top of my list is Small Miracles, so by Olivia Atwater. I can't, it's a 9. I had a bunch of 9s, and I put this one at the top of my 9s because it's like Good Omens, but it's its own thing. So it is inspired by Good Omens. It has all of the heart and wit and charm and themes, but it takes it from an apocalypse, right, like a global catastrophe level, down to a personal level, and it's like a slice of life story, and it was just so charming, and it was just so well written, and the characters are those that I'm going to remember for a long time. And I just had the best time this year. Like, this has just been the best fucking year ever. And that's it. I'll leave some links in the bottom, and I'll write this all out, hopefully on my blog. And that's it. Thank you.